Hey, hello, Ruby. We're so glad you could make it today to this interview. And I just want to start out with a pretty easy question. I want to have you just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so as you know, my name is Ruby Alder and I'm from Salt Lake. I've lived in Utah my whole life and I go to BYU. I graduated from BYU and in elementary education, and I love kids, and I believe that anything kids can be anything they want to be, like they have a um, great future ahead of them, and they just need a teacher to bring that out of them. And that's why I really appreciate this school, because they really look towards the kids' futures and teach them that they can be anything they want to be, and can help the teachers with facilitating that for students. And I really appreciate how important students and their home lives and their school lives are, because that's also so important to me.
Thank you.
Okay, Rachel, how about you tell us about yourself?
All right, so I'm Rachel Rutledge. I'm from California, and I recently graduated from BYU, Idaho. And the reason why I became a teacher is because I just really love kids, and I really think that they have so much potential. They have so much potential and so much creativity that they just have so much that they can accomplish, and they just need a guiding hand and someone that they can help them with. And I really like this school because the teachers that I've been able to meet with, they just love the students so much, and they are able to help them in any way that they can. And I want to do that as well, just help them as much as I can. So Saya, thank you so much for joining us today. So the first question I want to ask you is, why did you become a teacher?
For me, teachers are obviously meant to be facilitators of learning, but beyond that, I think they're also meant to be mentors and guides to their students. And I really think that it's important for schools and classrooms to be places where kids can feel safe to express themselves and feel like they can have a friend. And I really love the idea of being able to be that for kids. Okay, Kamora, I have a similar question for you. Why did you want to be a teacher?
No, that's a great question. I grew up in a big family. So I grew up taking care of my brothers and sisters, but teaching, I've been able to teach in lots of different capacities. And it's helped me to see the value in helping others to grow and progress. And one thing that I love about your school is that you want them to have this innovative mindset, to go beyond just trying to pass a test, but to be the next creators of our world. And I am excited to work with that. That makes me excited because I know our world is ever changing. And so if we don't have those innovative thinkers, it's going to be a lot harder in the future. Another reason I'd say I decided to become a teacher is because I love to serve. It helps me to thrive in life. That's where I find my ultimate joy. And so if I can help someone who is struggling, who doesn't believe in themselves, it makes me just so happy to see that little light go on. So yeah. All right. So my next question for Rachel, what do you think is the purpose of education? Sorry, that question was for Rachel. Yeah.
Sorry, you cut out when you said my name.
Oh, no worries.
So the question was what I think the purpose of education is.
Yep.
Okay. I think the purpose of education is to help kids grow help kids grow from the things that they already know, so that they can become a better person than they were before. All right, and Ruby, I have a question for you. So what do you believe is a place for technology in the classroom?
I really love that question, and I, have thought a lot about that through kind of my whole education, because we live at a really interesting time where, there's so much access to technology, and our jobs are to prepare students for their future, and so I think it's really important that we bring technology into the classroom and teach them how to use technology safely and how they can improve their lives. And so I think, of course, you have to be careful with it and monitor it, but there's a lot of great sites and a lot of great technologies out there that are really great for kids and can teach them things that I can't, and teach them in ways that isn't possible except through technology. Okay, Saya, I'm going to ask you a question now. So how would you encourage your students to express their creativity?
I really like that question. I am really in favor of creativity being a big part of education. I personally really love music, and so I think I would incorporate that in my classroom a lot. I also just think things like embedded choice with like education psychology and allowing my students to make their own decisions with their learning, whether that be the way they want to receive content or how they, make their own, or like their assignments, like giving them options with what they want to do with projects and things like that. And just giving them a lot of room to explore their own like imaginations and their own personalities with their learning. Okay, I'm going to ask Rachel. Can you tell us about a time when you were able to exhibit the ability to persevere or problem solve?
Yes, I think so. Let's see, a time when I was able to persevere. So a couple months ago, I had recently come home from serving a mission for my church, and I was in Colorado. That's where I served the people in Colorado, and that was during the time of COVID. And so, like everyone else, I was stuck inside. I wasn't able to do a lot of things that I thought I was going to be able to do. I wasn't able to go into people's home and just share the love that I have for them, that Christ has for them. But there were a lot of people that were going home at that time. But I knew that if I stuck with it, if I stuck to why I came out there, which was to serve the people and to love them, that I would be able to see growth, not only in myself, but the people that I was around. And I was able to see that coming back home and going through that 18 months when I was away from my family in Colorado. And I definitely learned that relying on my strength, and not only my strength, but the strength of those around me, was able really helped me to grow and to help move things along. All right. So Kimora, I have a question for you. How would you motivate your students?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's two kinds of motivation that I've studied, and the two are intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. And I think it's good to have a balance of both, because extrinsic, as we know, is where they do something good and we reward them, or they do something bad and we like give them like the punishment, or they take the consequences so they learn not to do that. But I think the problem with that is if we always use extrinsic motivation, then our students will always expect to like just get a reward, and will never really want to do something on their own. And so finding ways, my goal as an educator is to help my students to develop that intrinsic motivation. For example, this semester, one of the classes I'm taking, we do, there's no due dates in the class, which is really interesting. And it's kind of scary at first because we're always raised where we always had due dates. And if we missed it, like we got the consequence. If we got it on time, we got like a good grade. So this class has helped me to develop my intrinsic motivation because I also get to choose what I want to study, what I want to read, which is really exciting to me because I feel like I've learned so much in this particular education class. And so another aspect of that class is the projects that we do. Again, we get to decide, we have guidelines, but we ultimately get to decide how we do that project and in what form we do that project. And so I'd like to be able to do that in my own future class, is to help them develop that intrinsic motivation by giving them some of the authority. So another example, I've heard teachers do what's called a class constitution, where they have the students create the rules for the class. And so it can be kind of fun for them to be like, oh, like I get to play a role in this, and help them with that intrinsic motivation that it's not just the teacher making the rules. So those are some ideas of how I'd like to implement motivation in my classroom. But I do like candy, so maybe I'll throw candy at them too. So we'll see. Thank you. So my next question will be for Saya. And my question for you is, where do you see yourself professionally in 10 years?
10 years from now, I will probably be working as a teacher. I think, let's see, because I'm still pretty early in my teacher education, I will be like 5-ish years into professionally teaching. So I hope to have established like my personality as a teacher and the way that I like to run my classroom. But I think I'll definitely still be learning and doing as much research as I can and just developing myself and my classroom and my teaching strategies to best cater to the needs of my students. Okay, and then my last question is for Ruby. What is the most important quality a teacher can have, and how do you strive to have that quality?
Sorry about that. That's a great question. That's I think when you establish your personality in a classroom and have, those traits for teaching, it's really important that you kind of have an energy in your classroom where anything is possible, and you motivate your kids that way. And I think once you kind of can establish that, then kids kind of latch onto that and they believe that they can do anything, and it motivates them to continue to work hard and to learn more. And they won't be discouraged by not understanding something or something like that, but always knowing that like they can do something, and it might just take a little extra work and it might take a little extra help from me, but them knowing that anything is possible and they can achieve anything is probably one of the biggest kind of attributes I want to develop in my classroom. Okay, and my last question is for Kimora. So how would you incorporate parents and guardians into your students' education?
I love this question because it's something that I've been studying and trying to research lots of different ways, because I don't really feel like the current way of doing parent-teacher conference is really that effective, especially if you're a parent of multiple children who on the same night are having multiple parent-teacher conferences, and it's like crazy, and your kids are hungry and tired by the end of the night, and you're just like, okay. And then you come to the teacher and they tell you, okay, your kid's not doing so great. And so all that just is like all on top of you, and it's not very effective, I would say, or enjoyable. And so an idea I would propose is to have the parents and teachers meet together monthly if possible, or quarterly, and have them meet for about 45 minutes, a time that they're available to meet at. So after their work, and even have refreshments for the parents who come, because I think that'd make it more enjoyable, and have them discuss as a whole group how the parents would like to be involved in the class, as well as their students learning, because then the teacher knows what the parents are hoping their children to learn and how to learn it, and the teacher can kind of incorporate that. So it's more of the parents kind of talking with the teacher and telling them what they'd like and what they'd hope for their child, rather than just the teacher telling them essentially if their kid is like doing good or bad. So there's a little bit more depth in that. But I also am still in favor of like having parents come in the classroom for like helping with reading or any kind of assignments, because I think it's just fun and it makes the kids feel a little special that their parent gets to be there. And I think another thing too I want to include is emailing and calling the parents frequently. I don't know if it's allowed, but if I could as the teacher, I'd have like days where I'd have dinners with my students or something, just because I think it's something that is so important, just to have that parent-teacher relationship to help the students succeed ultimately. So I have lots of ideas and I'm very passionate about that, but thank you for your question. And was that our last question? Sorry.
Mhm.
Okay.
think so.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you guys think that went?
You guys had great
It was good.
questions. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of our questions were really good and like things that I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting to hear. So
I
Definitely.
like knew I was going to be asked like tell me about yourself. So I've been thinking about like all day, but I haven't been like practicing it. And after I was like, that like made me realize I really need to practice like out loud to someone before I actually have an interview. Cause like I've been thinking about it all day and I had like this bullet list of what I'm going to say. And then I like, you asked me, and I was like, that is something I learned.
yeah, I feel like everybody's answers were pretty good though. Like I think we were all able to express ourselves to the extent that we wanted to.
Yeah.
Rachel.
I think my answers were, but you know what? That's okay. It's
Yeah.
just a practice.
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought
and
they're all great.
yeah, well, and I agree with you. Like, I think just practicing is good. Like, because I was trying to like come up with questions and practice with my husband, and like the whole time he was just making fun of me because like I was like, I don't know what my answer would be to that. But I think the more we practice with it, even like if you think about on your missions, you probably did a lot of role play,
Yeah.
or even just in your
True.
class, like in classes, college. I've done lots of role play, which feels terrifying. But it does help you get like better and more comfortable. So don't worry too much, Rachel, because like even when I don't remember what question it was asked, like what it was, but I was like, oh, I think it was like, why do you want to be a teacher? I was like, like my mind just went blank, and I was like, oh,
I know.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
a lot of siblings.
The same thing happened to me, and I even came up with that question to ask. And when Rachel asked it to me, I didn't have any idea what to say. So
I know, I thought everyone's answers were like so good when they're like, when all of you were speaking, I was like, I never like would have thought of that. But like, it's like, oh dang, like I would hire you guys.
Oh,
I liked how I think all three of you guys did like oh, I really like that question, or I've been thinking about this question a lot, and you praised the interviewer with like the question, and then you answered it. So like,
yeah,
I don't know. And then you guys sounded so like professional and scientific, like throwing out those I don't know words that you guys used for a couple of the answers.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I was just like mimicking you guys.
no,
Like
same.
using the same words and stuff. I was like, I
Yeah.
heard this. It sounded really good.
Yeah.
Well, I think something too that kind of like helps is like the things we studied this semester, and then just other education classes that we're gonna take and just talk about more topics, I think has helped me, because if I hadn't been taking some of the other classes I'm taking now, I would have been like, like,
Yeah.
but that's one thing I'm excited for is like the classes that are going to help us like be more prepared.
I also, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, this is only my second semester, so I have only taken like a few education classes, but it really is like amazing to see how they all like connect together, and like it's like a puzzle, and I'm just making the big picture like come together more and more every semester. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I was actually talking to my husband about that last night. I was like, it's crazy, like all these classes go together. And he's like, yeah, that's like the point. I'm like, oh, I guess so, but I totally agree
Yeah.
with that. I feel like for me personally, during the interviews, I was like so stressed that like I almost wasn't listening to the question. Or like I like as soon as you say it, I'd like start thinking about like what my answer is and then I'd forget the question. So that's something I need to work
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Well, like, what was I gonna say? I just went blank. Okay, never mind. I kind of thought, and I'm like, came and went. Wow, okay, that was really bad. Yeah, never mind. Anybody have any other thoughts? No.
I think we did good.
I think we did good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that say you weren't there on Thursday, but I think that he talked about how to be a good interviewee and like some like tips and tricks. And I thought that was really helpful for like today. I was like, yeah, of like bringing it back to the person who was like asking the questions and stuff like that. It was really good.
Yeah.
Trying to think, there was also that other question we talked about. Was the what questions do you have?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like so he gave us some tips on that where he's like, when they ask you at the end, like, so what questions do you have? He's like, don't ask about the pay because that's super cheesy.
Right.
And then I can't remember something else not to ask about. Oh, do you remember, Rachel?
Yeah, he said don't ask questions that you can find the answer on the internet. So like if you do your research, don't ask them like what the kid demographic is or those kind
Yeah.
of things like that you can find on the school website.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. And then like he gave some examples, I think, or yeah, well, I can't find them, but ultimately, yeah, those were the two things. And I just thought that was so powerful because like I've totally done that in an interview, but also like it was for fast food. So
Yeah.
I don't feel that
A little
bad.
different.
No, that's definitely different.
But then I've also had like where there's been times where I haven't asked that and the person will be like, oh, would you like to know the pay? And so I'm like, well, yeah. But so in that case, I'm not really sure if that like is the same thing because I didn't directly ask it, but they like are asking me.
Mhm.
But then there's also situations where like, for example, my brother-in-law, he did an interview and they asked him like, what would you like your starting pay to be at? So I want to know how you would answer that kind of question because like they're asking you, but it's like you don't want to go too high or too low. So how do you find that like happy medium?
I was like reading something on like interview tips, and I think it's like if they ask you like what would you want yours to be, you can be like you can say like whatever position you're applying for, like what have these people made in the past,
Oh,
and kind of put
okay.
it back on them.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I've never been asked that, so I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, I think. Does anyone else have anything else to say?
No.
I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Okay.
And then we just post this and we're done with our project.
Yeah. So I'll figure out a way to send you guys the video and then you just upload it to YouTube and then
The
like
podcast
Anchor.
one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Anchor. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Good
Perfect.
job, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Yeah.